Greetings and welcome to Zoom interview strategies. These are different techniques and strategies that you can use to maximize how you look whenever you're doing a Zoom interview. And it does seem to be that going forward into the future, this is how we are going to be proceeding, either on the phone or through Zoom. Now, there are benefits on the phone. We don't have the use of body language. So very often, your tone of voice is going to make a huge difference. When it's face-to-face, of course, it's going to be almost the same as a face-to-face contact. But again, we're dealing with a two-dimensional face or a surface. So you want to make sure that you're maximizing everything that you possibly can when you're interviewing with an employer. Welcome. My name is Ann Mossop, and I'm an employment specialist at the Next Steps Employment Center in Downsview. And today we're going to be talking about Zoom interview strategies, techniques, and strategies for success. Next Steps is brought to you by Employment Ontario. We are funded through the Ontario government and also in part through the federal government. So our services are free, and we are here not only for job seekers, but also for employers. Our operating organization is the Toronto District School Board, and we represent some 400 different types of services across the province, strategically placed for all Ontarians to access when it comes to job search. So I'm glad that you've joined me today. Welcome. If you change nothing, nothing will change. So if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. That's a quote, I think Albert Einstein, or as close as to it possible for Albert's quote, but it's true. If you know that something's not working and you are marketing yourself, you're testing your results, you're seeing what you send out, what you're getting back. And if you're not getting any response, then you do have to investigate, find out more. Chances are you're doing something that doesn't meet market conditions and that you need to make a change. So our agenda for today is a little bit of an introduction and warm-up. As I've mentioned, I've already given a little bit of an introduction, but interviewing is not the way it used to be, say 20 or 30 years ago. And you cannot fly by the seat of your pants. By that, I mean, you just can't walk in and say, here I am, I'm me, I'm going to be me. Perhaps they're looking for you, but the best way that we can communicate who we are is not by tap dancing our way through an interview and coming up with some clever answers on the fly. It's being prepared and knowing what you're going to say before you get into that situation. So you have to prepare for behavioral questions. You also have to look the part on Zoom. Many times I've spoken to people and they're, they've got a bed in the background or a messy kitchen, or there's kids, or there's other people. We all know we're dealing with different things at this particular point in time, but you need to have a wall behind you, and then you can at least put, some kind of background behind you, but you do not want to show your bed and everything that's in the room. You want to be facing somewhere back against a wall so that it has a nice background and you can look professional and at peace. So we're going to sort of break down the interview process itself into pieces. How to close is very, very important. I have 5 things that I'm going to recommend to you today, and then we'll wrap up and we'll make some decisions on your next steps and your action plan that you're going to take. So I have a video that I want to show you. So if I'm just going to talk my way through it, so hopefully I can make it as easy as possible. Hang on. And she's called Hot and Flashy. I forget the lady's name, Debbie. Anyway, she'll introduce herself. But she has some wonderful tips for women when it comes to lighting, when it comes to testing out your background. So let's listen to Miss Hot and Flashy first. It's about 11 minutes long, but it is a very good overview of what you need to do to prepare. And as you can tell just by looking at the screen, she looks wonderful. So I say she knows what she's doing, and she's in her 50s, so she's pretty savvy.
It's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's video, I'm going to share my top tips and tricks for looking your best on a video call like a Zoom call or on FaceTime. As you guys know, there is a pandemic happening in the world, and so a lot of us are staying home or quarantined or have been asked to work from home, and so we're having to connect with people in the outside world, whether it's our family and friends or if we're working over a video conference call. And I've gotten so many questions about how to look better when doing these things. And of course, being a full-time YouTuber as I am, I do have a lot of tips and tricks for how to do that, but I'm also on the older side. I'm 57, and so it's hard to look really good on camera unless you know these tips and tricks. So it'll just take 10 or 15 minutes now once to figure out where the best lighting is, what the best camera angle is, get your little setup going, and then you will be ready to go every time. So let's get into it. My number one tip is to find the most flattering lighting. So generally speaking, the best lighting is going to be some nice, soft, diffused, natural light from a window that you're sitting directly in front of. Any light that's coming from above you, from the side, from the back is not going to be that flattering because it's going to cast a lot of shadows, or it's going to backlight you and put you all in shadow. But if you're going to sit by a window, you want to make sure that you're not going to sit in front of a window that gives you full-on direct sunlight, because then it's just too bright and it will blast you out. If it's a business situation, the lighting may be more limited, because if you've been working from home previously and you have a home office, then you may be limited to just what is available in your home office, whether you have a window or not, and whether you have room to have any other supplemental lights. Now, if it's a FaceTime kind of situation, you can take your phone anywhere in your house and go around looking for the best possible lighting. So I'm going to show you the blogger's phone trick for finding the best lighting, and this will apply both to FaceTime calls and to Zoom business calls with your laptop. But instead of dragging your laptop around the house, you're going to find the best lighting using your phone to start, and then set up your laptop in that area. So let me grab my phone and show you how to do that now. All right, when you're looking for the most flattering light, the best way to do it is to walk around your house with your cell phone, turn the camera around so it's facing you, and just watch your face and the shadows as you move from different lighting situations. So right now I'm faced into kind of a dark corner with light behind me and coming from this direction over here. So as you can see, this side of my face is light, but it's casting a lot of harsher shadows on this side of my face, which is not necessarily going to be the most flattering. So you'll notice as I turn this way towards the window, the light becomes much more flattering, but I'm still getting some pretty big shadows on this side of my face. So this isn't the ideal perfect light, but it's definitely better than what I just showed you. All right, now I'm standing underneath an overhead light, and as you can see, it casts a lot of shadows down, and so again, this is not the most flattering light. Just moving over to here, this is a pretty flattering light because it's not casting any harsh shadows. Now, fortunately, my family room has windows on all three sides, so it makes it easy to have even lighting all around. So ideally, this would be the perfect room to do my FaceTime calls or my video conferencing calls. This corner that has windows on both sides, that's going to be the perfect lighting situation. But sadly, the weather doesn't always cooperate, and sometimes you need to brighten up your shot, in which case you can just grab a lamp from anywhere in your house. It can be a task lamp from a desk, or I have like a bedroom lamp here. You're always going to set that up on the other side of your laptop so that it's shining directly at your face so that you look better in the video. So that's one option. Another option, if you're going to be doing this a lot and you don't have a window, is to get a small ring light. This is the one that I've had for a couple of years. It has a dimmer switch, So you can put it on just for a little bit of supplemental light like this, or you can really turn it up and blast the whole thing out. Generally, you're going to want to use it pretty low, but as a supplemental lighting source, it's really nice. It comes with a telescoping stand, so you don't necessarily need a box behind it. That doesn't take up very much space at all. If you have limited space to work with, that could be a great option. It's small, but yet it gives you that nice, even front lighting that you're looking for. Tip number 2 is to find your most flattering camera angle. Just like we were looking for the most flattering light, you've also got to be looking for the most flattering camera angle. Now, I find that the worst camera angle is always from below. Anything from below will show all of your chins. You'll be looking down, so it will show even chins that you didn't know you had, neck wrinkles you didn't know that you had. The goal with video is that you want to kind of be looking slightly up into the camera. That makes you lift your chin up slightly, and it also helps you keep your eyes a little bit more open. So let's go out into my little setup again, and I'll show you some simple ways that you can set your laptop up or set your phone up a little bit higher so that you look a little bit better. All right, so here's how I would set up my desk if I was going to be doing a video conferencing call. So I have my laptop set up on top of this little mini filing box, and that puts my laptop high enough so that the camera is slightly above my eye level, so it's kind of looking down on me a little bit. You don't want it to be so high up that you can't reach it, you can't see your keyboard, or that it's looking so far down at you that you can see all your gray hair and the floor behind you. You just want it to be slightly above eye level. You don't want to be sitting too close to your laptop because it's got a wide angle lens, and so if you get too close it will distort your face, but you still want to be within arm's length so that you can reach things. To get an idea of what you're going to look like before the meeting starts, you can just log into Zoom and select new meeting, and there you go. Now you can see yourself. And so I'm a little bit low and off to the right, so if I want a better camera angle, I would center myself first, and then I'll just go ahead and tip the screen down so that I just have a little bit of space above my head, and then I look good. So when I'm FaceTiming, this is the setup that I use. I have this little mini tripod. Of course, I'm a blogger. I've had that for years, but it is one of the best things that I've ever purchased because you can put the legs together and then it's a handle. And that's even more comfortable than holding your phone in your hand if you're going to FaceTime. But the solution for those of you who aren't going to spend the money on the little tripod or don't have one already is to just use a mug that you might have already in your house. This only works if you have a pop socket on the back of your phone like I have here. All you have to do is take a coffee mug, set it up on top of a box so that, again, your lens is a little bit higher than eye level. Pop your phone on there, hang it with the pop socket. Your phone's looking down at you at the perfect angle so that you look good, and now your hands are free. All right, tip number 3, if you want to look better on video, is to put a little effort into your hair and your makeup. I'm not saying you have to go full on glam and put on a full face of makeup and curl your hair, but where people are going to be basically seeing this part of you, I would try to make this part of you look a little bit better. But you shouldn't make yourself look like someone unrecognizable. If you had been going to the office and now you're Zoom chatting your colleagues, they're going to be wanting to see the normal you. So if you never wore makeup to the office before, then go ahead and do the same, but maybe just put on a little bit of mascara, or possibly a neutral lipstick can make a big difference, or maybe just a little lip balm. But if you want a easy makeup look that you can do at home, I just did a video on a stay-at-home makeup look using a minimum of makeup. You can check that video out right up here. If your hair is looking a little unkempt from the night before and you didn't shower today, you know, that's fine. I would just maybe spritz the front and re-blow dry your bangs or the parts around your face. Take a hot tool and maybe just curl the parts around your face. You know, whatever you need to do just to make yourself look a little bit more presentable. You don't have to go all out and do a whole huge thing. Also, dry shampoo can be great. If you haven't washed your hair in a few days, you don't want to go on camera looking dirty particularly, and that's where dry shampoo can come in. I'll link a couple of good dry shampoos in the info box below the video. Tip number 4 is to keep the distractions to a minimum. So you want to keep your background neat and tidy. It can be, like you saw before, a full wide angle of a room, but everything behind you should be tidy. If it's a tighter shot like this, where you're in your office and there aren't going to be any distractions, distractions, that's probably the best way to do it, is to kind of try to have a dedicated room where you can keep one area tidy. So if I turn the camera around and showed you what I'm looking at, it's a mess. I really need to do an office cleanup, but I keep this one area super tidy because this is my filming area, and I know that it always has to be neat so I can sit down any time of day or night and film a video. Same thing, if you get called into a meeting suddenly, you don't want to have to be scrambling to clean up your filming space. So keep your filming space nice and neat. Another distraction is when people are staring at themselves in the monitor instead of looking at the people that they're supposed to be talking to. You know, if it's a Zoom call, there's like 6 or 8 little images and you can see everyone, and you're kind of trying to look at everything and look at your computer, but it helps if you look into the lens. So learn where the camera is and try to look directly into the lens instead of off to the side over there. Try to keep the distractions of playing with your hair, touching your face, itching your nose, sticking your finger in your ear to a minimum, okay? No one wants to see that. It can be annoying, it can be gross. Another distraction that you're going to want to try to minimize are noise distractions from your family, from your pets. Obviously, everyone has to be a little bit flexible in these times because people are working from home. There is going to be the occasional cat walking through, dog walking through, child coming in who needs a hug or something. And tip number 5 is to try to dress business appropriate for your business. So I know that is probably pretty casual. Everyone knows that everyone else is working from home, but you definitely shouldn't be wearing like an oversized hoodie or something like that. And since you're only filming from here up, whatever you're wearing on the top doesn't have to match what you have going on the bottom. You can still have your jammies or your sweats or whatever you want on the bottom. Just make sure that if you are going to stay in something not business on the bottom, make sure that you have all your things assembled in front of you so that you aren't going to have to get up and go get something and expose that you are actually not quite dressed for prime time on the bottom half. So that's it for today's video, everybody. I sure hope you found it helpful and informative. If you did.
So there you have it. I forget her name already. Joanne. Oh dear. And actually, just the point I want to make with her is that, hang on a second. Hold on. My mouse has disappeared again. So her website is called Hot and Flashy, how to look good on video calls. And her name is Deborah, I think. No, it's not Deborah. I keep saying Deborah, but it's not. And I want to get out of this. And I want to make a screen change. Here we go. I'll talk my way through it and it works. There we go. So that just gives you that really good overview to start with. You can't, again, fly by the seat of your pants and just show up for a Zoom meeting. In addition to making sure that you look great on the camera, you have to do your other preparation too. Usually we do introductions, and the reason we do this one is just so that people feel a little bit more comfortable. You are going to be introducing yourself several times during the job search. And, you know, you want to get comfortable with the idea of introducing yourself. And again, you need to perhaps prepare something that would be appropriate to answer the question, tell me about yourself, which we talk about all the time too. So the only way that you can really answer behavioral questions is by telling a story, giving an example of something that you've done in the past so that they can understand what you're capable of doing in the future. So these are 10 things that we need to remember. I'll just review them quickly. Everybody's always looking for, okay, what is the trick? What is the tip? How can I beat this system? Well, you really can't unless you've got some inside information. But if you're just going through the route of applying for a job, and you don't have any other interventions or people helping you out with getting into a company, then this is really what you need to do. The biggest problem we have in dealing with people who are seeking employment or looking to make a change is they do not realize the commitment and the amount of time and effort it takes to be able to do a career transition. If you were looking to purchase a car, you'd spend all kinds of time researching prices, researching dealerships, researching features. But unfortunately, when it comes to jobs, people just fly by the seat of their pants and then wonder why they've got a job 5 years later that they absolutely hate. You have to take the steering wheel in your hands and you have to start making some decisions, informed decisions, not just make a decision and you have no knowledge. It takes a lot of work to get a job in today's market. And I don't care who you are or what education you have, it's going to take a lot of time to get a job. So you need to prepare. Prepare means actually write out responses to questions that you anticipate. And as you're going through that process of interviewing with different interviewers, you can spin in different questions that come up that maybe you really didn't feel you answered well. So if you get asked again the next time, you can answer it in a more forthcoming, relaxed way. This is why you can't just fly by the seat of your pants. If you're just flying by the seat of your pants, whatever thought comes into you, you are not focusing on your tone and you're not focusing on your body language. These are important characteristics, attributes, things that employers are watching for. So you need to anticipate questions, search the internet. We can give you all kinds of suggestions as to what kinds of questions are being asked. Nobody can tell you what you're going to get asked. Nobody knows. Just because we're in this industry, it's not a set, pat, standard answers. There can be some familiar questions that get asked, but every company hires differently. I'll repeat that. Every company hires differently because every company is different. And we can give you the great rules that will get you into access employers, but you have to make sure that you're targeting towards each employer and you know something about them. And it's a company that you want to work for. Once you've anticipated questions, then you need to sort of start taking a look at the job description. You have to know it thoroughly, inside out, upside down, backwards and forwards. Maybe look up the occupational classification code for that particular occupation. That is relevant to Canada.ca website and the job bank. So get on the job bank and explore, see what you can find out. The NOC code, the National Occupational Codes, are 4-digit codes, and it also is an additional job description that can help us through this period of time. Research the company, again, inside out, upside down, backwards and forwards. See if anybody in your network knows anybody within that organization. Use positive body language, sit up straight, and maintain eye contact. Now, this doesn't mean staring a hole in the person's forehead. There are various things that we can recommend and suggest to you, but this is how we behave in an interview in our culture. Understand the process. There's an opening, a body, and a close to the process. Prepare yourself for behavioral interviews. This is why we need to prepare, and anticipate questions. We can use PAR. PAR stands for Problem, Action, Result. You can use CARS. CARS stands for Challenge, Action, Result. Or if you're in the IT industry, chances are you use STAR, which is Situation, Task, Action, Result. These are formulas to help you tell your stories in an interview by giving examples and taking them through a process that's easy for another human being to follow in a conversation. We also have to remember that while the interviewer is sitting there, they're writing, and there's usually more than one interviewer. You can make your statements and your stories easy for the other person to record by making it clear what you're communicating. And that's why we use PAR, CAR, and STAR. I'll talk about that in a moment. Or actually, you know what? We have a great recorded webinar that I'm going to ask you to watch, because it will not only help you with your resume, but it will also help you with your interview. How to convey your accomplishments, resume, and interviews. It's on the Next Steps Downsview recorded session. It's usually, if you click through on the calendar just to get to where you sign up, you will find how to convey accomplishments, a recorded session that you can click on, and they will send you the information. Understand that there is a body, there is a process. There's an opening, a close, a body, and a close. And understanding every aspect of the interview becomes important. Certain things happen at certain times. Going to be giving your behavioral interview answers probably during the body. But we want to open optimistically and make a great first impression. And again, we want to be impressive by showing ourselves to be an assertive individual and by asking the right questions that we need to know the answers to when we're leaving. So we also need to prepare questions for the interviewer. If you say you have no questions, that is a big negative. It's not positive. It means that to the employer that you're not demonstrating interest in the position. And you're going to be working at this company. Seriously, you don't have any questions that you want to ask? And no, it's not what is the salary and what are the benefits and what do I get. No, employers want people who will want to work for them. This is a conversation we put on hold. If the employer brings it up, then we give an answer. And we're still wise as to how we're going to answer things. Actively listen, demonstrate by shaking your head. And, you know, a lot of times I'll be in an interview, just even on Zoom, practicing with people. I'll ask a question and they will just sit there and look at me. And it's like, when somebody asks you a question and you just look back at them, unfortunately, the person might interpret that you don't understand the language or that there's some kind of a problem here. So you want to make sure that you're listening very carefully. That's why a pair of headsets can really help, and a microphone too. Dress appropriately, as Hot and Flashy Lady mentioned. That means dressing the way you would in that environment or the way you do in your previous environment, if it's a similar environment that you're targeting. And what you have on the bottom doesn't really matter. Just don't stand up. That's something that you don't want to get caught, exposed. I don't want to say exposed. I have heard, wasn't some politician, he didn't have anything on the bottom recently. So anyways, the moral of the story is be careful. And send a thank you email and a thank you really quickly after your interview to show that you are responsive, that you're acting on it, you know, with immediacy. And that's going to impress them, because if they hear from you and they don't hear from the other candidates, you're the person that is freshest in their mind because you have sent a thank you. It's just showing appreciation. They won't send you a thank you, sorry. It's pretty one-sided, but we still have to see it that the employer has the bag of gold. We want the bag of gold. So it's two people looking at each other. We're making our decisions too. What we're expressing may be somewhat, what's the word I'm looking for? Guarded in what we say during the interview, just as far as things that are not recommended that you talk about in an interview. But yeah, you just have to put yourself in another human being's shoes, and your understanding increases immensely. So the 3 stages of an interview, I'm going to break it down further in a moment. If you've never had an interview, or if you're new to Canada, or even if you are, you've lived in Canada all your life, it could be that you haven't had a lot of interviews. So understanding the process so that we can feel comfortable and we know where we are in the process also becomes important. So the typical agenda, once you've gone through I'm again thinking more in terms of Zoom. There's going to be an introductory stage. Usually the information is going to come from the interviewer to you. If you're on Zoom, or if you're in person even, I always recommend that you have like a Padfolio with you, so that you can look down, you can write people's names down, you can take little notes in your file to remember. But definitely if it's a panel of people, I usually just draw a little table on an edge of paper in my Padfolio, and I just quickly write their names around so I know who they are and who's asking me what, because when I send my thank you, I want to send an individual thank you, and I want to acknowledge each person. And somebody would probably be putting their hand up saying, do you have to send a thank you to everybody? It's like, yes. And you're trying to make it, ideally, you're trying to make it significant to each one of the interviewers to comment on something maybe that they asked you in particular. It's going that little extra mile, and yes, it can make the difference. It can make all the difference. There will be a part when you know it's wrapping up, there will be a cue from the interviewer, and then you need to do some follow-up. It's not you're over, it's if you don't get the job, there's something wrong with them. You may be qualified for the job. There may be 10 other candidates qualified for the job, but the person who's going to get the job is most likely the person who is going to make the strongest impression and present the strongest case during the interview. So, it's just because you showed up and you qualified, it doesn't mean you're going to get the job. You have to be chosen. So the introductory stage is usually in a boardroom or in the interviewer's office if it's in person. Otherwise, it's going to be through Zoom. You want to establish a rapport and a business-like atmosphere. You want to make a good first impression. Possibly we would maybe just start out with some small talk and break the ice. Our culture, we like to break the ice before we would jump in and start asking questions. They could talk about what the process is, what will happen. So have your resume in front of you. Oops. The opening. Usually the interviewer will give an overview of the position and the organization. A lot of times at this stage, they may also share additional information. In the body of the interview, you need to anticipate and prepare answers before you get into that situation. Please watch how to convey accomplishments, resumes, and interviews. It's a recorded session, and you will learn all about using different formulas to best express your accomplishments and your achievements to an employer. And we all have them. Generally speaking, they're trying to ascertain if you're qualified or a good fit. So that's why we want to start out with a very strong introduction. Generally speaking, we use the informational interview elevator pitch or a variation of it. Again, you can find out more about that by contacting me specifically, Ann Mossop. I'm more than happy to talk to you. And yeah, I'll give you those details before the end. Follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. If you want a job, you have to do some heavy lifting. You can't just sit there. Nobody knows you're looking for a job. Nobody knows you're looking for a job unless you tell them. Know yourself, know the field, know the industry, know the employer, and I'm back to it again. Know the field. Know what's happening in that particular industry, in that particular geography, in that particular culture. Understand everything about that particular organization and make a decision as to who are your top 10 employers. Oh my goodness, we can take control over our own job search. On a piece of paper, write 10 circles. In those 10 circles, identify 10 companies. And on another piece of paper, write 10 circles. And in those 10 circles, write acquaintances, friends, coworkers, past supervisors, people that you can network with, people that you can talk to that can help you with your job search and with what they know, and doing informational interviews. Again, something maybe that you're not aware of, but there's a regular job interview, but then there are informational interviews. I'm going to get you to Google informational interviews. That's your homework. You've got some other homework too, but Google informational interviews. This is what you should be doing. And prepare for behavioral questions. And that's where we use the formulas, PAR, STAR, whatever, to tell our stories. It's a way to logically tell a story where it's going to make sense to the other person. Your questions. The employer is going to ask you if you have any questions. This isn't the end. It's part of the body of the interview. They ask you questions, you ask them questions. They may go back to ask you more questions. They may talk to you more informally, but you have to be prepared. And your questions, wow. When I am interviewing people, your questions demonstrate how interested you are. And there's a piece missing here. Some interviewers believe your questions are more important than your answers. So the kinds of questions that you ask are indicative of your interest and your skills and just your whole approach to the particular job. This is really, really important. So grab that pen and paper and start to write down what are the 5 things you need to do. Now, of course, it's going to change with Zoom or or face-to-face, but you're going to basically follow the same things. As a part of your questions to the interviewer, do not say, what are the next steps? It's not up to you to bring up the next steps. They will tell you what the next steps are, or if they haven't, then you will ask in the end. If you ask what the next steps are, you've kind of prematurely ended the interview. What if they wanted to continue asking you questions? Now you're asking about next processes. So hold that until the end, because it fits really well when we're leaving, to demonstrate that we're the right person. We're not aggressive, we're not passive, and you can't hear us, and not confident. Or you're assertive and you can state what it is that you're looking for. So know when the interview's over. If they say, thank you, Anne, for coming in today. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you. We'll be in touch, or whatever. That's a cue. So you can either, straighten up and ask further questions, or even stand. While you're saying this, make a strong closing statement based on what you've heard in the interview today. Reiterate the reasons why you are a good fit. Thank them for their time and consideration. Smile. Handshaking is out, even in person. I don't know what the new thing is going to be, touching feet, hitting elbows, touching your nose, I don't know. But shaking hands is out. If you're in person, ask for a business card if one hasn't been presented. If you're on Zoom, ask to get their contact details before you leave so that you can, I just want to follow up and I want to send you a thank you. And ask, when is a hiring decision going to be made? And when can I follow up? You're not asking who they hired. You're asking when they're making a decision. That way you can have it on your radar. You can follow up. Again, you can demonstrate your tenacity. You can demonstrate your interest by following up. And after you close, you're on the way out and it's like, whew, wow, I'm glad that's over. Or it could be at home that you're saying that. But what do I need to do? What did I do well? And what can I improve? So I'm going to do a T on a big page of paper. And one side of the T, I'm going to say positive, and on the other side, I'm going to say improvements. And I'm going to debrief myself. What did I do really well? Oh, I really nailed that answer to customer service. I have to do that again. What do I need to improve on? Geez, I don't think I answered the weakness question. I have to revisit it, rewrite it out, Evaluate yourself. Do anything that the employer told you to do and do it promptly. But if you don't reflect on what you did well and what you didn't do well, how can you improve? Actually, it's a process we should go through, a TBAR process every day. What did we do today that was great? And what do we do today that needs to be improved? We all have areas of weakness. There's no such thing as a perfect candidate. We all have strengths and weaknesses. We just need to indicate or show that we know what our weakness is and we're dealing with it. Now this is really important. Arabian pie. No, it's not coconut cream or cherry or blueberry. It's Moravian pie. It's the three basic elements in face-to-face communication. What are they? What do we use in a face-to-face communication that helps us to convey our message? What do we use? Shout it out. Shout it out. Well, first of all, we use words. There it is, words, body language, and tone. Now, this is how Morabian Pi, it was Mr. Morabian, man by the name of Morabian, came up with this split for communication after studies. And he put it in the circumstances of a highly emotional or feeling kind of exercise when people are face to face, very much like an interview. There's a lot at stake, there's nerves, person wants to perform well. Well, communication sorts, we receive the message 7% through the words. Well, then words don't matter. What do I have to prepare for? Body language is 55%. Zoom or in person, 55% is your body language. Now, if I'm in my head trying to think of an answer, I'm actually going to be in my head. I'm not going to be thinking about my body language. And my tone is going to be very flat because I'm in my head thinking. So the words become critical. And this is why we need to practice and prepare. You could say all the right words, but if your body language and tone is not congruent, it does not line up with the words that you're expressing, then the message isn't going to be received the way you wanted it to. And if you're nervous in an interview because you didn't prepare, even more so. So let me give you an example. Oh, I love interviews. They're so much fun. I can hardly wait. Now, somehow, I don't think you got the message. The words were saying one thing, but the tone, especially if it's on the phone or just the voice we're hearing, the tone face to face is 38%, the body language is 55%. So we're taking in all of these signals and interpreting everything all at one time. But if your words don't match your body language, or if there is no body language, your message is not going to be received the way you wanted it to. There are basically 3 elements in any face-to-face communication: words, tone of voice, and what we consider nonverbal behavior, which is all of the body language. Secondly, the nonverbal elements, tone of voice and behavior, are particularly important for communicating feelings and attitude, which is what we're trying to do in an interview, especially when they are incongruent. They don't match up. Your voice is saying one thing, but my tone was saying another. You didn't get the message I was excited about interviews. You got the direct opposite. The words were saying one thing, but the tone clearly indicated this person was not being truthful, and the tone didn't support the words. If words disagree with the tone of voice and the nonverbal behavior, then people tend to believe the tone and the nonverbal behavior. Did you believe I was interested in interviews, or did you believe the direct opposite? So there are things that you need to change. I'd like to outline all of them and just revisit some of the things that we've talked about, because I don't want to go on too long. You're going to have to write and implement an opening statement that answers the question, tell me about yourself. Generally speaking, it is a variation of your elevator speech, your elevator pitch, your summary, your 30-second summary, your introduction. Please get in touch with me to find out more about tell me about yourself and how to answer. The 3 common stages of an interview are the opening, the body, and the close. The 3 elements of communication and why is preparation the key to interview success? Because words, tone, and body language, if they're not congruent, if they do not align with each other, then the person will watch and listen to the body language and tone. And the words won't match what they're saying, so they will take their message from their tone and body language. So you can think you're communicating really clearly, but if you're not mindful of how you're communicating, your message may not be received the way you want it to. Understand the motivation, commitment, and effort required to perform well during an interview. It takes a lot. It takes a commitment. And if you're not spending at least a minimum of 25 hours a week on your job search, you can't be very serious about a job. If everything else is taking priority, you need to get a grip on your time management. And again, we have a recorded session, Time Management Essentials or Essential Time Management. Watch it, follow the tips. But the first thing I'll say right away is schedule, 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 schedule your time, schedule your family time. Get into some kind of a routine in this routineless world that we are experiencing and get on track. Return to me and Mossip. I'm the Next Steps Downsview employment specialist. I'm here, I'm chomping at the bit. I want to help people, and you're not coming to me, you're not seeing me, you're not following up. So we can do a practice interview. I'd be glad to do a practice interview. And most people always comment on how much it helped them after their interview. So yeah, we do want to do that. And we do want to make change. Endless conversation about change is the barrier. Actually committing and doing something and then acting is what is required. You know, knowing something means nothing. Knowing how to conduct a proper, today's effective job search is important to your future. And if you're just doing the same old thing that you've always done before, you're not going to achieve the results that you want and that you want for your family as well. So the ball's in your court. I'm here. I'm Ann Mossop, M-O-S-S-O-P, Ann without an E. I'm an employment specialist at the Next Steps Employment Center, Downsview. Thank you for joining me today. And if you really want to talk to me, please call me on my cell phone at 416-565-5390. I'm happy to speak to you. We are back in the office. It's mid-August right now, 2021. We're hopeful that things will get back to normal in September. However, we do have that third wave pending. But guess what? People who are employed are switching their jobs now because people who aren't employed are asleep at the switch. So get going, get moving, get a job, get back. We're here to help. My name is Ann, and I'm here to say goodbye, good luck, best wishes. Come and see me.